6 years ago, I sat in my room with a cheap mic and recorded my first ever episode. I had no guests, no listeners, no clue what I was doing. And today is my 18th birthday, and I'm so excited for you to hear this episode. A lot has changed since that first pilot that I put up. The mic is better, the guests are better, hopefully I'm better too. But some things haven't changed at all, and those are the things I want to talk about today. This is season 3 of The Creative Hustle with your host, Anika Goyal, and I'm not doing a scripted intro today. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to cover or what to expect. What I will tell you is this. I've been waiting to make this episode for a long time. Not because it's a milestone or because it's something crazy that I've been waiting on for a lifetime, but because it's the first time I feel like I can actually say something without having to kind of edit myself or say things in a way that will be perfect for everyone that's listening to this episode. So, anyways, if you've never heard this show before, welcome. My name is Anika Goyal, and I started this podcast when I was 12 years old because I wanted to talk about people's stories, wanted to hear other people's stories and understand what they were building, and I couldn't find a show that was doing it in the way I wanted. So I just did what any normal person would. I made one. I was in middle school. I had a cheap mic, a lot of nervous energy, and absolutely zero idea on how to book a guest, edit audio, or talk to a stranger for 30 minutes without panicking. Of course, spoiler it, I still do sometimes panic when I book someone big or even small. I mean, small and big kind of depends on how you think about it. But I've just gotten better at hiding that fear and that panic because that's truly what you can do as a creator is fake it till you make it and understand how to navigate those fears that you feel every day. But once again, I showed up every week because the alternative of not pursuing podcasting was simply not doing it, which felt worse than doing it badly. And that honestly is the whole thesis of the show. It always has been, is do things. It's better to try than not do it and feel worse when you do it badly. Because without the trying aspect, you are not putting yourself out there. You're not trying to output your creativity into the world and instead blocking yourself from what could potentially be your next big break. And even if it's not your next big break, it truly is the perfect way to kind of navigate your life and navigate your pressures and dreams and ambitions. Because once again, without your chase, without your drive for trying something new or being curious about life, you are essentially letting yourself stay stuck in one place. This is the part where you're living life. If you're living life, you have to experiment, you have to be curious, you have to be interested in the things that are happening around you, even if it's not something that interests you in the given moment. Once you experiment and once you realize that life is built to enjoy and experiment with, you will realize that you are truly missing out on things that you don't try out, especially when it's outside of your comfort zone. Stepping out of your comfort zone, I think, is the biggest thing that you can do for yourself. Because for me personally, if you told me at 10 or 9 or 8 or even younger or older that, hey, Nika, you would be starting a podcast, you'll be talking to these big guests, you'll be talking to people you don't even know, and you'll be kind of this confident person to some degree, I would laugh in your face and go, no way, that's not possible. I hate talking to people who I don't know. I hate talking in general. Like, I'm so scared. I can't do this. I cannot stand in public and talk. But now, if you tell me, hey, Nika, would you have ever believed it? I would still say no. I'd say I would never believe that this is what I'm doing now. But with all the years that have gone into this, with this being my sixth year of doing this podcast, I've truly learned that you do not know what you're good at until you try. You do not know what you can be capable of doing if you don't try. And I think by trying, you're essentially putting yourself in a place where you can say, yes, I can do this. I can talk to a big crowd. I can perform in front of 1,000 people, or I can talk to the people I would never talk to otherwise. And the true passionate part of all of this is the connections you make. You cannot make connections if you don't put yourself out there. You cannot make connections if you're not saying, yes, I will do this thing. I will put my best foot forward and I will experiment and try my best. Trying your best truly is the best thing you can do again, because when you try your best, you can see what you're good at and what you're not. And when you're not good at something, you can see, well, did I enjoy the process at least? Did I enjoy making the song? Did I enjoy making this piece of work? And yeah, if it is yes, but it looks bad, then maybe you keep working at it. And if you're like, no, I don't really like this, and move on, find something new you're good at. And it's just all about practicing. It's all about rather than thinking of, oh, I need to perfect my craft, I need to perfect this play that I'm writing or whatever you're doing. Instead, focus on in on What can I be good at? What do I want to be good at? And why do I want to be good at it? And once you find your why as to why you're doing what you want to do, it allows you to sort of level up in your journey. Oftentimes for me as well, the things that changed between being 12 and being 18 was simply the authenticity factor that came in. For me, I thought growing up would feel like leveling up, right? It turns out it mostly just feels like everything gets more complicated. And that is true because when I did start this podcast, I had this very clear, very simple picture of what success would look like. I was going to get big guests, the show was going to blow up, and everything would fall into place. And yes, some of that happened. I did get big guests on. The show was doing well to some degree. I mean, I don't know what you would call as blowing up in the scenario, but it was doing well. Like I was happy with how it was going. I got guests I never thought would say yes. I had guests that I would thought that, would come on but would not promote the show, but they did promote the show. And the show definitely grew a lot. It started obviously at zero and now it's at 10,000 plus. Obviously, the growth was very, very slow, partially because, well, in the first few years of starting the podcast, I did not know if people were actually listening or people were going to listen or if this was just first timers luck. And so I didn't really try to promote the episodes or the show much within the first 3 years, which I think is my biggest regret now is I wish I believed myself from the start. Because if I would have believed in myself from the start, I think we would have been in the millions by now or even higher. And I think one thing though is having these regrets now, obviously you can't change anything about the past, but it's something that, I want you guys to know is, especially if you are trying to start something big or you already have started something big, the biggest part is believing in yourself. I think if I would have believed in myself, there would have been so much I could have accomplished and so much you guys could have heard from me as well, just because the bigger exposure would have reached more of you earlier on rather than now. But regardless, I'm super happy that you're able to come here and hear what I have to say. And a big part again is when you're building something from a young age, you're really in that trial and error phase. You're so focused on proving that you can do it that you forget to ask yourself why you're doing it. And 12, I did not need a reason. I just felt like I wanted to start something small or something big. And with the quarantine, it felt like perfect timing, with this free time that I was given, with online school happening, and with just this extra waste of time, I guess, that was available to me. I was just thinking of ways I could fill that up with something fun or interesting. And I think that's where podcasting and music and all that came in was it sounded like a time sensitive thing. It sounded like it was going to take a lot of energy and time. And I was like, you know what? I don't have anything better to do. Let's just do this. It's fine. Like it sounds interesting. I feel like it could inspire people here and there if people listen. I did not fully grasp the idea that podcasts truly are listened to people from around the world, and I was expecting it to be a couple of my mom's friends, dad's friends, my friends. That's it. But it truly did expand a lot. And at 15, 16, 17, the reason started to matter to me, and I didn't always have a good one. There were a stretch, I won't tell you exactly when, where I almost stopped, but it was not because I was burnt out exactly, but because I started doing the show for the wrong reasons. I was chasing the version of success that looks good on paper, that looks good on like resumes, the follower counts, the big names, the validation, saying that you interviewed a reality TV show producer or you interviewed a costume designer, which are things that I was able to do. But the moment I started putting value on those elements of my podcast. First, my quality was dwindling. You could see people unfollowing, you could see the engagement on episodes decreasing day by day. And I think that just truly was a big breaking point for me. I was fully lost. I did not know. Did I want to continue this podcast? Do I not want it? Like, what's going to be the next phase? But then what I realized then was I've poured so much of my life and my heart and my soul into this podcast that I don't think I could ever imagine leaving it for a reason such as I am tired. Because being tired can mean multiple things. Being tired can mean that you're just tired of seeing the failure that is coming from it. But being tired could also mean you're just tired of doing podcasting. And when you're tired of doing something you love, you have to kind of reassess and understand, well, what does that mean? Because it turns out that external validation is sort of like fast food. It feels great for about 20 minutes and then you're hungry again and also kind of hate yourself. Because the thing is, What I truly want you to know is that external validation truly stems from the idea that your true worth comes from these likes, the followers, the everything I mentioned earlier of the big names. Moment you have smaller guests, a guest with perhaps 120K view followers compared to 2 million followers, you think, well, if I bring on the 120K, the reach will be less. But that's not true. You have to be very precise and particular, especially with the podcasting industry or the media industry. If you have a podcast, you have to be really careful of who you bring on. You have to make sure they match your niche. You have to make sure they match your vibe. You have to make sure that they are quote unquote perfect for your audience. You do not want to bring on someone who has no relation to your audience. You don't want to bring on like a motherhood expert if your audience is fully people in their late teens and mid 20s, or people who are more creative driven and don't really want to hear much about the motherhood aspect. Of course, your audience grows as you grow, so you might slowly start reaching moms. And if you want to do those kind of episodes or those kind of guests for your mom audience, that's awesome. I've always tried to make sure that my content is something that is, interesting for everyone. But of course, when you're doing content creation, you want to make sure that you're targeting a specific group of people. You cannot say, oh, my content is for everyone. That's like saying um, you know, this app is for everyone. And that can be true, but everyone is such a broad term that you truly have to hone in on a particular demographic group. So you can be more specific and rooted in what you want to explore. Because if your audience is, say, teens, you would want to talk about Gen Z stuff. If your audience is toddlers, and it would be content that you would think that parents would be okay with the kids seeing. If there are people in their mid 30s or 40s, maybe you're talking about quarter life crises, or maybe you're talking about job stuff or cosmetic procedures, if that's something people are interested in. And by cosmetic procedures, I mean, like, beauty treatments and all, because I know that demographic group does tend to have, an interest towards that. So understanding your niche, understanding who you are within the context of your brand and beyond is something that I've truly understood now after doing this for 6 years. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it still. I still do think that there's so many things I want to learn. But there's also this other thing is that I'd spent 2 years overcomplicating the one thing that was supposed to be simple. So the main thing that changed between 12 and 18, I think I got louder in all the wrong ways before learning how to get quieter in the right ones. I also cared too much about what the show could look like from the outside perspective, and now I'm learning that I'm still learning, care more about what it feels like from the inside. I also grew up publicly, which is its own weird thing. Nobody really asks you about that part. Like what it's actually like to have a documentation of yourself at 12, 13, 14 out there forever. The awkward episodes, the interviews where I clearly did not know what I was doing, the phases. I had a phase where every episode description had three rocket emojis. We don't even talk about that phase. Every episode even had like a little smiley face emoji, the one with the semicolon, the bracket. And honestly, I don't even feel like deleting any of it because that's the real record of what this was, not the highlight reel, the actual thing. And I think that's something I want season three to be the actual thing, not the polished version, not the version that performs well, the real one. Because when you think about it, you forget about the analytic portion of it. Real intensity travels faster than documented, edited, heavily produced content. When you're reading off a script, you can tell it's being read off a script. You can tell that it is not being said with the spontaneity that an off the record episode would have. And the big part as well is in the past, my interviews were very much just ask a question, you answer back. You ask a question, answer back. And slowly over the years, I realized, well, when I listen to an episode or a podcast, I'm very interested in hearing a conversation. I don't want to be feeling like I'm just being talked at. I wanted to feel like I'm also part of the conversation, right? And so I was like, what can I do that can make my podcast feel the same way? And that's where I came up with the concept of choosing to make my interviews feel like a conversation with a friend, regardless of the age gap, regardless of who this person is. Of course, if this person is, you know, miles ahead and is doing something crazy, crazy big, or have has a title like doctor, I'm not gonna be like, hey bro, how's things going? I would still have that sort of friendly vibe going on, but have serious questions. Of course, this doesn't mean the questions are not serious. I mean, you guys might have listened to a couple episodes here and there. Some episodes are more friendly vibe. Some of them are more friendly, but they still do have that business mindset type going vibe going on. And so that's a big part of the growth arc we see here is that the version of me that was there at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 is still part of me, but it's in a different light. It's the 18-year-old version of me that gets to explore all these things, explore the future and explore what the horizon um leads me to. And there's always a saying too, right? You ride into the horizon on your big dark horse. And I think that truly is reminiscent of this journey, this journey of going through the ages and realizing that this podcast truly is the one thing that stayed constant within those 5 to 6 years. And I also want to talk about what's coming next because season three is different in a way that goes beyond just episode counts. In August, I'm moving to Chapman University for freshman year of college, which is crazy. I still cannot believe I'm saying that. I am going to college and I still don't fully understand how, when, why all of this is happening. I think along the way, I just kind of forgot that I was still a student beside a podcaster. But, anyways, new city, new room, new everything, which means that for the first time in 6 years, this podcast is not going to be recorded in the same place it started. And I've been sitting with that for a while because this room, wherever you're imagining, you're probably not far off. This room is where all of it happened. The first terrible episode, the first guest that actually said yes. The episodes I'm most proud of, the ones I'm least proud of, all of it happened right here in my bedroom. And season three isn't supposed to sound like where I've been. It's supposed to sound like where I'm going, where I'm heading towards next, what I'm planning on doing in the future, which is terrifying kind of the most exciting thing I've ever said out loud. So here's what I can tell you about what's coming without giving too much away. The guests this seasons are different, not just in terms of who they are, but rather in terms of who they represent and what they have to say to you. I'm generally more excited about this lineup than anything I've ever done before, but in terms of the conversations we're having, I'm asking harder questions. I'm going to places in interviews that I used to avoid because they felt too risky. In fact, risk is fully in the front door right now. There's not going to be a single episode where you feel like, oh, she's not taking a risk. I'm 100% going to take all the risks you can. I'll give you insider tips. I'll you know, reveal all the things I'm learning in college. With me majoring in public relations, advertising, entertainment, marketing, there's gonna be crazy things I'll be hearing. So I'll be sharing all of that. I'll be having, if I end up going to any of the masterclass, because Chapman does have this masterclass program where basically you're able to sign up for things where guests like Ariana Grande, Barry Keoghan, and other big people show up and they share the stories. So if I go to any of those, I'll be sharing those insights on here as well. So I'm super excited for this new phase, and I'm so, so, so grateful for all of you that have joined me over this journey of 6 years. And it also turns out 18 years on the planet gives you just enough confidence to be dangerous. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm also doing more solo episodes because I've spent 6 years being the person who asked the questions. And I think it's time I started answering some of my own. Season three is about creativity, ambition, culture, the internet, and what it actually looks like. Figure out who you are while everyone's watching. And I think you're going to love it. Okay, so last thing, if you've been here since the beginning or somewhere in the middle, thank you so much. Like, genuinely, you have no idea what it means. Keep going on the days I almost did, the listens, the DMs, the people who told me they started their own thing because of the show. I carry all of that with me. And yes, I cried reading some of the messages. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. And if you're brand new here, hi. You picked a good episode to start with. It's a little chaotic and very honest. And I think that's exactly what season three is going to be. I started this podcast at 12 because I had something to say and no one was handing me a microphone. I'm 18 now. I still have something to say. I'm recording this in the last place this show will ever call home before everything changes. So let's make it count. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. And I hope you all love season three's pilot episode and continue to support me on this journey and continue to join me on this beautiful journey called life and support me with all the episodes that are coming out, both solo and guest. We are going to have a blast this season, and I can't wait to see you all for the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. And this is your host, Anika Goyal, out.